So Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 87 has been released, and overall I think the main story stuff of this chapter was really good. It foreshadows a lot of things, as well as sets up a mystery at the very end of the chapter that gives me some very nice intrigue for what could potentially happen, as it seems that the prophecy, the omen from the start of this arc, is not over yet, which we'll get into by the end of this chapter. But yeah, aside from one moment at the start of this chapter, I honestly thought this was relatively pretty solid. But I'll get to that when I get to it, as that is basically within the first 2 to 3 pages of the chapter. But enough babbling, let's hit that intro and get right into the review. Chapter 87 of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Guinevere. And I gotta say, this image of Lancelot and Guinevere, honestly, it looks nice. But this chapter starts off in a cabin, in a inn, where Lancelot is sitting on a couch. A tea kettle is being shown to be prepared for tea, as Lancelot is trying to get comfortable on the couch. He says that the couch is not very comfy. As off-screen, Guinevere is stating, "I just came to the kingdom of Leonis yesterday with my maid, and right now, she's out." Guinevere tries teasing Lancelot, saying not to try anything since they're alone together, which Lancelot, thankfully, as the calm and level-headed and sane person he is, says that nobody's thinking anything like that, and asks why she needed to change. As the next page flips over, I'm not going to show the image, Gawain comes over in another dress, which, I'm not going to lie, I don't like this image. If she was older, I would find it, I still wouldn't like it, but it'd be less uncomfortable. She's 12 years old, Lancelot's 16, and she's dressing in a relatively inappropriate attire with her. I don't know, it's probably because I'm American or something, I don't know. I'm not going to linger over it. I just wish that the age gap was a lot closer, and this wasn't the panel that Nakaba chose, since Guinevere had a better outfit in the last chapter. But anyway, Lancelot thankfully changes the discussion from that, and says, "Don't humans wear frilly stuff for real special occasions?" But Guinevere says, "Yeah, but today is a real special day." Lancelot tells her to sit down, and before he can continue, she grabs onto his arm and says, "At last, my dream came true. How I've waited to hold the real flesh and blood you, just like this." Lancelot asks where she's from, and she says she's from Cameliard. I think I'm pronouncing it, or Camelard. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Someone in the comments tell me if I'm pronouncing it correctly. She says it's a small country not too far from the original Camelot. Lancelot brings up the fact that she guessed that they were looking for Gawain, and if that was all she could do, she figured that she was like a search type magic user that somewhat lets them read minds, and that's what a lot of people were speculating as well. Lance goes on to say, "But to guess exactly where she was, that's a whole other story. Your magical power lets you see the future. It's an oracle type, the rarest of the 9 types, isn't it?" And this is a very popular fan theory, the fact that Guinevere can actually see the future, which makes a lot of sense to the fact that she says that she essentially heard things from Lancelot that he never said it, and that he's going to do stuff, so it was kind of obvious, but you could always play around with that type of reveal. But no, she can't actually see the future. As she then lists off all the different types of magic: destruction type, shifting type, healing type, search type, mental type, deception type, stealth type, enchant type, oracle type. When you have 4 or more, when you have more than 4 of the 9 types, it's a hero type, like Percival's, which he does have multiple types. And Lancelot's like, "How'd she know that?" Lancelot says, "I want to hear more," and she says that her magical power is called kaleidoscope. This magical power lets her dream of future events as clearly as if they were reality, stating that it's not some fuzzy or vague revelation like the omens of former King Bartra. And I like in this one panel, as she is explaining, it shows Bartra at the top with the hazy image of the 4 knights in the mist and fire, and the bottom is her looking down at a clear image of her, Lancelot, and Gawain in the city of Leonis. She says that she can see clearly and hear clearly who does what, where, and when, and what exactly they say. So this is broken as hell type of ability to be able to basically know exactly what's going to happen in the future, what people are doing, where they are, and it's pretty broken, but there is a limitation that actually balances this out, as she goes on to explain in a little bit. Lancelot is kind of shocked by this, basically being like, "Are you serious? That kind of magic, it's nothing he's ever heard before." But Guinevere continues to say, "But unlike Omen, I don't know the broad future that goes as far as the fate of the world. I only know what happens to myself or around me. I know everything that will happen until I die at age 71. So she knows when she's going to die, which if anybody would know exactly when they die, they kind of be incredibly nervous and honestly very scared all the time and pretty paranoid, or it would drive them insane if they know exactly and how they would die. But since she's not, either she has the mental fortitude of a saint, or she dies in a relatively peaceful manner. There's a lot of speculation at that point. She goes on to say, I know everything that will happen to me until the age of turn 71. I've been watching at random since I was 3. So since she was a baby, she's seen images of the future through her dream, stating that her father was trying to hide her power as much as he could, but then rumors spread. That's why she came to the kingdom. That's why she came to Leonis eventually. She then looks out the window, and we see in that one panel that someone is following her. And it's most likely the shadowy figure that we saw in the previous chapter. And some people were saying that this might be like Pelgard or Knight of Chaos getting ready to abduct Guinevere, since Arthur wants to find his bride. So that's honestly a nice subtle hint. Lancelot says, whether I believe you or not, it doesn't change the fact that what you said, no one else could know. She knows what no one else should know. He thinks for a second and says, hold on. You said you can only guess what happens around you. So how'd you know about Gawain? And what about how my old man talks? And she goes over to Lancelot, stating, all I did was tell you what I'll hear from you in the future, stating that they're going to have a relationship in the future. I gotta admit, when his artwork is good, Nakaba's artwork is good, trying to make this into a sweet moment. Again, I'm hyper-focusing on this. I really shouldn't. But again, the age difference is something that I just don't like. If she was 14, I'd buy it. Maybe 13 as a stretch. Even I don't like that, but 14 is fine. 14 or 15. That would be like the grace period for a relatively normal relationship. Nakaba's kind of got a problem when it comes to normal relationships in his series from Seven Deadly Sins, and even now to the bare minimum with Lancelot. But Lancelot's kind of uncomfortable and a little embarrassed when she says this. He turns around and says, so about that, I don't really get it. I mean, why me? Do you really think I'll go, yeah, gladly, if you just drop it on me like that? Guinevere says, the future I see is set in stone. I never miss a mark. And Lancelot just flops down on the couch and says, then you're real confident. This is only the second time I've met you like this, right? And again, Lancelot is taking this surprisingly well, even though he's kind of like weirded out by all this and overloaded with a bunch of different information right now. But then Guinevere says, I dream like it's reality. I will meet you hundreds and thousands of times. And she goes to lists off things that are going to happen, stating, we meet for the first time when you're 16, which is right now in the Leonis arc. We meet in secret in a tower when you're 18, so that's going to be 2 years from now, which means there's probably going to be a time skip. You kiss me for the first time when you are 19, which is going to be another time skip. You make a name for yourself as a knight in service to the king when you're 23. So basically, Lancelot will end up meeting her again when she's 14, when he's 18, then when he's 19, she'll be 15, and she'll be 19 when he is 23. This whole thing teases the fact that we're going to get at least three small or large time skips. For how long the series is going to go, I'm not sure. But this really does tease that we're going to have multiple time skips or time jumps. So I'm curious to see where this goes and how Nakaba's going to expand the story to go throughout. But then Guinevere starts to cry and says, and then we will for the last time part ways. As Lancelot is looking over at her as she's crying and tilting over, stating, until we reach the future I didn't want to see everyone, as she then falls and Lancelot catches her in his arm as she starts crying out. She starts bawling, crying, foreshadowing the fact that there's going to be a very bleak future, which, to take my comment about her dying a relatively peaceful death, kind of with a grain of salt, because something's either going to happen to Lancelot or just everybody she cares about in general. And I'll get into my overall thoughts on that by the very end of this review. A couple of minutes a little later, as Guinevere, walking with Lancelot, says, I thought that I would never need this kind of magic. I felt like I'd go mad just having so many dreams about horrible things. Lancelot says, yeah, I get it. I mean, he reads people's minds, so he can definitely hear all the nasty thoughts from people around him. But she says, well, you know, you helped me through it just by being there. I want to meet you in real life someday, Lancelot. And so the time we finally get to meet like this is now. And now I feel I can endure whatever hardships are about to happen. As Lancelot's like, about to happen? But that's, and then she cuts him off, stating, after having such a big cry, I feel so much better. Lancelot says, oh right, you're leaving tomorrow. and she's gonna say, I know, you'll head out to find Camelot, right? Basically being like, did you see that coming too? I feel like this is gonna be like a bit of a banter between them where he's gonna try and do something, she knows it from the future, they cut each other off. It'd be a nice little running joke for them. Kind of fits. One person can read people's emotions and minds, the other person can actually see future that happens around her. That's actually an interesting pairing, if I have to be honest. But anyway, Lancelot says, you were staying in Leonis until today too, weren't you? As Guinevere asks, will you come see me again someday? Lance pauses for a second and says, sure, why not? And she goes off with a smile, and the two part ways as Lancelot leaves her house. Lancelot gives a sign saying goodbye, as Guinevere looks at his back, looking down with a slight smile. Lancelot looks back for a second and says, definitely someday, you hear? As he calls her by her name, as she gets incredibly excited and says yeah. Now at the end of the chapter, where Lancelot is thinking Uncle Meliodas should know about Guinevere's magic power. Should I make a report? As then the rain starts to come down, and Lancelot realizes something. Don't tell me. As he remembers the omen, when the kingdom is blessed by the moon, distant thunder and rain. Meaning, as he says, the omen isn't over yet. Meaning that what happened when the four knights assembled originally was not part of the actual prophecy. Which means the whole thing with the Traitor's Blade didn't even involve Jericho, if I'm reading into this right. So, something is gonna happen. That shall we figure from the end of last chapter, and now with that little peek at the start of this one, it's leading that potentially this could be related to Guinevere and Lancelot. The four knights are gonna assemble against some other threat, but something's gonna happen. A Traitor's Blade. We thought it was Jericho, but it could be somebody else entirely. Hell, jury's still out on Xion being the actual traitor all in all. If that happens, I would honestly not mind, because I hate the man. If these Xion jokes and slander get old, please tell me and I'll stop it, because I feel like it is going to be a running joke, a running trend on the channel for these Four Knights videos. I will keep them going with every single chapter. But yeah, the chapter ends with the fact that the prophecy that Bartra talked about, that he gave from his dream, is not over yet. Guinevere is leaving tonight, and tomorrow Lancelot is going with everyone to find Camelot. So, whole bunch of theory juice coming in. That shall we figure is most likely going to kidnap Guinevere, and then something big's going to happen, because literally, a Traitor's Blade, that was the whole prophecy. That was whole part of the prophecy. Hope will be snatched away. Maybe Guinevere was the hope to begin with, since she can see the future. Meaning that we're in a time loop. God damn it. You know, now that I think about it, with Guinevere's power, this whole story is basically a time loop to an extent. She knows her own future because technically it's already happened. So now she's basically just going through the beats just to live her life, to see how things work out. This story's going to end with this whole thing with Guinevere predicting the future to end up being broken. Either she'll lose her powers, or Lancelot and Percival, obviously Percival's the protagonist, will end up doing something that will alter the future. I see that happening. I'm calling it now. And this could play into the fact that Percival's power is hope. I'm bringing in that Percival hope video right now. But yeah, honestly, I think this could actually be really good. This actually makes a lot of things possible. Heck, Guinevere basically teases multiple time jumps in this series for this whole grand adventure. This could actually end up doing something with all of the Arthurian legend stories, just altered for the Four Knights of the Apocalypse story, which is actually interesting, if I have to be honest. I'm curious to see where all this goes. But overall, aside from that one panel of Guinevere, which I kind of overreacted to over on Twitter, so I'm just going to delete that tweet by the time this video comes out, because I definitely overreacted. I did not like that panel and how Nakaba was portraying Guinevere, again with the whole relationship thing and the fact that she's 12 years old. But overall, this chapter was really solid. A lot of nice foreshadowing, some internal conflict for Guinevere, and even Lancelot is honestly caught off guard, which is something that has not happened in this series, to be honest. Save for maybe like one time, I think, with Jericho, but overall, this was a really, really good chapter, a pretty solid chapter. Nice foreshadowing, theories galore, and I'm just excited to see what happens next, because the whole fact that the prophecy isn't over, it means that this arc ended, the Leonis arc ended, or this isn't even the end of the Leonis arc. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say for this. This chapter, now that I think about it as I'm recording this video, has actually gotten a lot better after really thinking about the dialogue in this. But what did you guys think? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section, as well as theories for what could inevitably happen. You know what, I'll make a video on Guinevere before the year is over, now that I think about it. Depending on how the next few chapters go, I'll make a Guinevere video. I also got a Lancelot video coming out at some point within the next few weeks, So look forward to that. And once more, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows that you guys want to see more Fortnite content on the channel. With all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and hope you all have an awesome day.